All right, everyone, so today we're going to go a little deeper than just a standard book report on Orwell's 1984. What I want us to do is use this novel as a kind of analytical lens, right? A tool we can use to really pick apart the pretty complex systems of information and, control that are shaping our world right now. And Orwell just drops us right in it with this absolutely chilling idea, thought crime. The ultimate crime here? It's not something you do, it's something you think. It's any thought that strays from the party line. In Oceania, your own mind, your own consciousness becomes a potential crime scene. This is the bedrock for a society that is aiming for total psychological control.
Okay, so to really get what Orwell is warning us about, we first have to master the vocabulary he created to describe this kind of oppression. You see, the ruling party, Ingsoc, they don't just punish people who disagree. Their whole project is to re-engineer society, and even language itself, to make it impossible to even form a rebellious thought in the first place.
And the party's #1 tool for this is Newspeak. As Orwell lays out in the appendix of the book, its goal, its conscious purpose, is to make all other ways of thinking impossible. It's a language specifically designed to shrink the boundaries of your mind until a heretical thought becomes, well, literally unthinkable.
You know, one of the characters in the book, a Newspeak specialist named Sim, he just nails it. The ultimate goal isn't just to make dissent illegal, it's to make it unthinkable. It's about reaching this state of unconsciousness, where questioning the party would be as ridiculous as questioning gravity. In this world, when the language is finally perfect, thought itself is dead.
Now, the second critical idea we have to wrap our heads around is doublethink. And look, this is way more than just being a hypocrite. It's a kind of mental discipline where you actively accept two beliefs that completely contradict each other. This is the psychological engine that lets the party control reality itself.
And this is the real source of the party's power. It's how they can rewrite history whenever they want, to say Oceania has always been at war with East Asia and just erase the fact that you remember them being allies last week. It's the mental trick that makes it possible to insist that 2 + 2 = 5, and to have people genuinely believe it. It is the complete and total surrender of your own memory to the state.
And all of this mental gymnastics, you see it boiled down perfectly in the 3 party slogans that are plastered all over Oceania. Every single one is a direct, brutal application of doublethink. These aren't just posters. They are the core beliefs of the society, hammered into every citizen's brain day in and day out.
Okay, so we've got our framework from the novel, now for the interesting part. Let's pivot and apply these concepts to the world outside of this classroom. If the party's power came from its total control over information and language, who or what are the information managers in our time?
So where do we see this today? Well, one really compelling parallel can be found in the world of elite corporate lobbying. This is a space where language is crafted with incredible precision, and where reality, in the very real form of laws and regulations, is being actively shaped, often behind closed doors. I mean, just think about the sheer scale of this. According to research by Farrell Corcoran, in the European Union alone, you've got this massive corporate lobbying industry, with a budget closing in on €1 billion a year. And their job is to shape the laws that affect 500 million citizens. That's influence on an industrial scale.
And what Corcoran points out is that these lobbying efforts are often run by what he calls deeply obscure organizations. These are global giants in information management. They work behind the scenes to frame the entire conversation that policymakers are having.
And here is the absolute key point. This influence isn't just some abstract idea. As you can see from the quote, their actual words, their concrete text amendments, can end up becoming actual EU law. So in a very real way, they are writing the rules that build the reality for 500 million people. Okay, now let's shift gears and look at a vision for the future. One that comes from one of these information giants, WPP. We're going to treat their Data 2030 report as our second primary text today, to see what it tells us about where information management is headed. And let me be really clear about this. This is not a dystopian novel. This is a real corporate strategy document. It's their roadmap for a future that is driven entirely by data, and its foundation is total information awareness. So to describe this new world, the report actually invents its own vocabulary, just like Newspeak. They call it the Dataverse, and they define it as a world where every single aspect of our existence, every object, every relationship, every interaction is translated into the language of data. Now pay close attention to the wording here. The report says, very explicitly that data will no longer just record our world. It will actively define our relationships and decide our experiences. That is a huge shift from data being a mirror of reality to data being the architect of reality.
The vision couldn't be clearer, as this slide shows. The report fully expects that the sheer amount and speed of information will create a world where automated data decisions don't just help humans make choices, they replace them. In this future, data itself becomes the one making the decisions.
So here's where we bring it all together. Let's put our two primary texts in direct conversation. Orwell's fictional dystopia on one side and this corporate vision of a Datatopia on the other. What are the parallels? Let's actually put them side by side.
I mean, the parallel's pretty striking, isn't it? The party controlled the past in order to control the present. This Dataverse vision suggests that by controlling data, you can define and decide our lived experience, which, if you think about it, is a brand new way of controlling the present moment.
And this brings us to a really critical question. If the whole point of Newspeak was to narrow the range of thought by getting rid of words, what happens when we translate all of human experience into a brand new language, the language of data? Do we risk narrowing our whole understanding of the world to only the things that can be measured and counted? Which really leads us to the central question of our whole discussion today. If our reality is increasingly being shaped and decided by these data-driven systems, what ideas, what values, what ways of being, the things that don't fit neatly into a spreadsheet, what happens to them? In a Dataverse, what becomes unthinkable? So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Orwell wrote a warning about a very human desire for absolute control. As we move into a world where data is being set up to replace human decision-making, we really have to ask what new power structures are being built and who, or maybe what, is ultimately in control. Take the frameworks we've talked about today and apply them to the world you see around you. Class dismissed.